Batman the Animated Series is widely regarded as one of the best TV shows of all time, especially in the field of animation. As a millennial, I was fortunate enough to be able to watch the show when it first aired, and can still remember being blown away by how different it was to the other cartoons of the time. However, as transformative as it was, some of the early episodes are pretty average and a couple are poor. Notably, I've Got Batman in My Basement. And if you compare those episodes with the series highs, Heart of Ice, Feet of Clay Part 2, Two-Face Part 1, they almost feel like a completely different show. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, by looking at a beloved Christmas-themed episode, it is Christmas after all, that, objectively speaking, isn't very good, but it is kind of fun. We're talking about Christmas with the Joker. I recently posted a video about a new series of books, Batman the Animated Interviews, written by Bob Miller, that collects over 30 years of interviews with key BTAS creative team members, including a lot of people that you don't hear from very often. Former Warner Brothers executive Gene McCurdy, background artist Ted Blackman, vehicle designer Shane Poindexter, and many, many more. And one of the fascinating things in the first volume is reading their account of the tumultuous development of the show. The first of the 5 volumes has over 800 pages, and just focuses on the development of Batman the Animated Series. If you wanted to learn more about the books, then I've linked to a video I made in the info button and in the video's description, so feel free to add that to your watch later list. It's a fairly long story, but I'll try to be succinct. Just note that some of the finer details may be glossed over. Gene McCurdy was the person that hired Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski as producers on the show, based on the strength of their artwork. At the time, Timm was a storyboard artist and Radomski a background designer, who had done a little bit of everything in the animation industry. Their radical ideas caused some higher-ups to become anxious, thinking that this isn't how cartoons should be made, and so they brought in a more experienced story editor, Sean Catherine Derrick, to help guide them. The issue was that Derrick was being encouraged by these executives to rein the pair in and produce a more traditional cartoon, while McCurdy was encouraging them to push the boundaries. This caused conflict that prevented scripts from being approved, and that held up the entire production. And that's not to say that any of the people involved at this time were incompetent, far from it. It's just that they were doing a different assignment to the one Timm and Radomski were trying to get through the door. This would be resolved when McCurdy stepped in and hired Alan Burnett as a producer, who sided with Timm and Radomski, and the rest is history. So this is why some of those early episodes, The Last Laugh, The Forgotten, I've Got Batman in My Basement, and so on, feel like they're a different show. By the time Burnett took charge, they were massively behind schedule and had to get some episodes into production. One of the first things that Burnett did, along with story editor Marty Pasco, was go through the rejected scripts to try and find some that could be salvaged. And Christmas with the Joker was written around that time, before they had fully cemented their take on the characters. To me, it feels like the final product was produced as an act of compromise between those two earlier mentioned camps. Something less emotionally complex, but still action-packed and a little dark. The original premise of the episode was that the Joker was tampering with the citizens of Gotham's Christmas presents to turn them into murderous autonomous weapons. But that was deemed to be too dark, so the script was reworked. It's also worth mentioning that this episode was directed by Kent Butterworth, his only credit on BTAS, because he quit the show before the episode finished to go work at Universal. I don't know why he decided to leave, perhaps he was fed up with the bickering, or maybe he just felt that working at Universal would be a better fit. Either way, with his departure, producer Eric Radomski had to take over in order to get the episode across the finish line. The episode was written by Eddie Gorodetsky, who went on to produce shows like Big Bang Theory and 2.5 Men. Gorodetsky has a background in comedy, and it shows in this episode. I'm told that Paul Dini also worked on this script, and that he really enjoyed working on it. To me, it feels more in the vein of an episode of the Super Friends, with the Joker having a huge arsenal of preposterous devices that just don't fit in with the rest of BTAS, which was far more grounded. As much as I love the rocket-powered Christmas tree or the observatory telescope being turned into a cannon, it's tonally completely different to what would come later on. And that's not to say that it's bad, it's just different. But I do enjoy several of the gags in this episode. Batman's distaste for It's a Wonderful Life, saying he could never get past the title, is a big hit with me. And I love this sequence where Batman thinks he's witnessing a mugging, but it was just a youth returning a lost item. I don't know why, but this shot of Batman lurking in the alleyway, ready to pounce, really makes me laugh. Generally speaking, the story is more zany and slapstick. The Joker is foiled because he's clumsy and slips on a roller skate, almost falling into a vat of molten metal. What was that doing in a toy factory? Did the Joker have it specially brought in? Note that this isn't the last time that the Joker would suffer because of his clumsiness. The Last Laugh, another early episode, had pretty much the same ending, with the Joker almost falling into a furnace. Additionally, in the censored flashback in Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, he slipped and accidentally pulled the handle that activated the electroshock machine, although in that case, his clumsiness resulted in his death. It makes me wonder if this Joker tripped and fell into that vat of acid when trying to get away from Batman, and he's just been telling everyone that Batman knocked him into it to look less foolish. Certainly seems like when the creative team felt backed into a corner with how to end a Joker episode on a tight deadline, they turned to pratfalls. Which is kind of fitting, I suppose, given that he looks like a clown. But it's not all laughs. The Joker's scheme involved broadcasting his own Christmas special to the people of Gotham across all channels. This early Joker is an exhibitionist that wants to force people to watch his devious acts. Having a huge audience tune in via the television is one thing, but he needed for there to be witnesses in person. The Joker had kidnapped 3 prominent citizens and forced them to act out the role of the lawful family. Commissioner Gordon as the father, Summer Gleason as the mother, and Harvey Bullock as the baby, because he didn't have a family of his own to spend the holidays with. In the original outline, the Joker had kidnapped a random family, including at least one child, but this was deemed to be too severe. As such, they changed it to being these recognisable characters, even though it doesn't really make much sense. Arguably, the worst thing he does involves blowing up a bridge just as a train approaches the city. It's made all the worse by the fact that Summer Gleason's mother was on the train, and the Joker forced her to watch, powerless. Fortunately, Batman and Robin were also watching and saved the passengers, much to the Joker's frustration. After tracking the Joker to his lair, an abandoned toy factory no less, Batman and Robin engage with the Joker's henchmen and an array of murderous toys. And it's funny that there are several scenes in this segment of the episode that remind me of the seminal film Batman Mask of the Phantasm. The Joker crushing a model of Gotham City with his Betty Blooper doll reminds me of the confrontation in the model city of Gotham towards the end of the film, as do the little Joker planes. Ultimately though, this episode just kind of stops. It seems that the Joker unleashed all of his chaos because he wanted to give Batman a Christmas present. A pie in the face. I suppose it would make sense in his twisted mind, but it doesn't quite feel as well thought out as some of the Joker's later schemes. Maybe if it had been a cyanide pie. That's not to say that all of Joker's schemes have to be rational. This is the guy that poisoned all of Gotham's fish in an attempt to patent his likeness and earn royalties, and flew a guy into Gotham just to hold a door open for Harley Quinn as she wheeled him into the room, hidden inside of a massive cake. But it just feels like there wasn't much payoff, and maybe that was intentional. I will say that I really enjoy the closing moments of the episode though, as Batman finally takes the time to watch It's a Wonderful Life, and he didn't dislike it as much as he thought he might, while the Joker sings Christmas carols to himself with a truly deranged expression on his face as he sits in his cell in Arkham, alone. I like that sequence so much that I actually bought one of the original layout drawings, before anyone accuses me of mindlessly hating on the episode. Ultimately, it's hard to judge this episode without comparing it to other Joker episodes. It's definitely better than The Last Laugh, another early episode with a troubled production. But compared to The Laughing Fish, Make 'em Laugh, or The Joker's Favour, my favourite Joker episode, it's just kind of missing that spark of brilliance. I hope that I haven't come across as being dismissive of this episode, as regular viewers will know I love the dark tragic episodes above all else. So you can probably understand why I rated this episode relatively low on my BTAS episode tier list video, also linked in the info button and description if you're interested. Having said all that, it's not without its merits. The Joker's plot is genuinely unhinged, and it doesn't have to make sense. But most of all, this episode has several iconic moments in it. The Joker singing the Jingle Bells Batman Smells Christmas carol. The Joker riding away on his rocket-powered Christmas tree are but 2 examples. Most of all, I kind of like the idea that the Joker went to all this trouble simply because he didn't want to spend the holidays alone. It's kind of sweet, if he hadn't been so intent on killing everyone. Okay, that's it for this week's essay. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell all your friends about me. You know how YouTube works. If you really enjoyed the video and have the means, please consider making use of the thanks button to send a buck or 2 my way, because every little helps. I offer channel memberships for $1.99 a month. This will get you early access to my weekly video essay, priority responses to your comments, members-only videos, custom emojis, and an icon on your profile indicating that you're one of my people. And special thanks to my current channel members, who are all listed on the screen right now. Thank you for joining me for this Christmas special. I'm always blown away when people actually watch my videos. Never mind actually turn up and watch these live premieres, especially on Christmas Day. I hope you all had a great day, even if you don't celebrate the holiday. Please feel free to join me again on Friday for a video about Batman the Animated Series version of Alfred Pennyworth. Arguably the warmest and most fatherly version of the character to date. Hope to see you then.